Hey fellow beaders, it's JP and I have another tutorial for you. So I'm calling my Sunday tutorials. I'm going to try to post every Sunday, Stash Sundays. And what I mean by that is I'm going to create a tutorial with beads that you're most likely going to have in your bead stash. So it'll be things like rondelles, bicones, different types of round beads, such as drux or pearls, or even round crystals, and of course fire polish and seed beads. So basic things that you guys are going to have in your stash, and maybe even some super duo beads. So my Sunday postings are going to be Bead Stash Sundays. And hopefully you guys will have the beads you need already in your stash, and that you don't have to go out and spend money and purchase beads to make any of the tutorials. Anyway, last week I had you make these earrings, or I did a tutorial on these earrings, and pretty much you most likely had everything in your bead stash. They were just fire polish, 11/0 seed beads, and some bicones, all of which were 4mm bicones and fire polish. You needed a couple of jump rings and some ear wire. This week I have the matching bracelet, and here it is. This bracelet is about 7 inches, and I had to basically make 7 units for the length that I needed. So you'll have to make units based on whatever size. You might have to make 8 units if you need an 8-inch bracelet. And each unit, just like the earrings, you needed 8 fire polish and 5 bicones. So there were 4 on each corner plus the one in the center. Now I'm using one of the bicones as part of the connecting unit, as you can see there. You'll also need 2 jump rings. So here I've got a jump ring on each end and a lobster claw clasp. I would recommend using 4 to 6 pound Fireline or Wildfire thread, though I recommend Fireline. It's not quite as thick as the Wildfire, and we're doing multiple passes through the beads, especially when we're doing the connections, and you're going to run the risk of breaking the beads if you use anything thicker than 6 pound. So I would suggest 4 or 6. Either one should be fine, but just to keep that in mind when you're putting this together. Okay, well, I think that's all I have to say, so let's get started. To begin our component, you are going to pick up 4 fire polished and 4 11/0 beads. And you're going to alternate them as I have done here. So fire polish, 11/0, fire polish, 11/0. You are going to make a circle with these. So what we're going to do is bring these down to the end of our thread. And let's see, here's my end. I'm going to go back through the beads to make the circle. There we go. Hold on to my tail so it doesn't get pulled out. So this is what you'll get. There's my thread. I'm going to tie a square knot. Make sure the knot is between the 2 beads and none of the thread is wrapped around the beads. So there it is. And that's what your piece is going to look like. Now take your needle and go through the fire polish and the 11/0 like so, and this will bring the knot into the fire polish. Next, you're going to pick up 3 11-0 beads, and you're going to go back through the 11-0 again, just like I've done here. Oops, let's see. And what you'll get is a little picot, or picot, I guess it's like a right angle weave unit, like so. And then you are going to go through the fire polish and exit out of the next 11-0. Just like that. And you're going to pick up 3 more. And you're going to do the exact same thing you did before. You're going to go back through that 11-0 bead and create the little square around the second bead here, the second 11-0. Go through the fire polish and exit out of the next 11-0. Just like so. Pick up 3 11-0 beads, go through it, and now I'm just going to go a little bit faster, and I'm going to actually go through that 11-0, the fire polish, and this last 11-0. That's what I'm going to have, and I'm going to do it one last time. Go back through my 11-0, through the fire polish, and if you can, which I'm having trouble doing, I'm going to go ahead and just go through the fire polish for now. So this is what your piece will look like once you've done all 4. Now, go through this 11-0. So this is kind of the 11-0 where we started. And now I'm going to flip this over because I like working in the upward direction. And I'm going to go up into these 2 11-0 beads. Next, I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s of fire polish and 2 more 11-0 beads. And I'm going to go into this next bead that's right on top, like so. And that's what you should get. So you should have your 2 fire polish beads sitting side by side. And before we continue, I'm going to get rid of this tail because it's going to drive me crazy. It's out of the way. So I'm going to repeat what we just did. And so I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s, fire polish, and 2 11-0s. And go into the next 11-0 there. That's what your piece should look like so far. And we repeat. Go into the next one. We're going to pick up 2 more 11-0s, the fire polish, and 2 11-0s. And make sure that you're going into this original bead at the top. Make sure you don't accidentally pick up that one. So I'm going through, and I'm actually going to come out of the fire polish. Let's see. Yep, I can angle it and I can go into it. And there you have it. Now what you're going to do is pick up 5 11-0s, and we are going to make a loop around our fire polish. So just go back through the same fire polish. Make sure you're not picking up anything else. Just going through the fire polish. And there's the loop. And don't worry if there's a little slack in the thread. It'll tighten up as you go. Now continue through 5 of these 11 beads. So just like that, and come out of that fire polish, and we make another loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go back through the fire polish. If I can just get through. There we go. That's what your piece is going to look like now. And again, you'll have little slack there. That's okay. And now we go through 5 11-0s and on to the next fire polish. I'm going to do it again because so we have 2 fire polishes that we need to get these loops around. So this is number 3. I got my 5 11-0s and I'm just going to go back through the 11-0 bead. And I have my 3rd loop completed. And now the last time. But go through the 5 11-0s and the fire polish bead. And our last loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make your loop around the fire polish. So once you've gone, if I bumped the camera there, but once you've gone through or around all 4 fire polish, this is what the piece should look like. And now we are going to connect all of these loops together. So you go through the 4 or 5 11-0s. Then through the fire polish. Okay, so here's where I'm at. I'm going to go ahead and flip the work because again, I like to work upwards. And I'm going to go up into just the first 3 11-0 beads. I'm going to pick up an 11-0, and so basically what you're doing is you're exiting out of the middle 11-0 bead here. And so you're going to go into the middle 11-0 bead in the next loop over, like that. And what this does is it'll connect all 4 of the loops together eventually. So we'll do this for each of the 4 loops. So, and I went ahead and turned things around. So now they're all the 2 are connected together. Go to the next, pick up an 11-0 and connect the 3rd loop together. So it brings it together, and now we do it again. And we add the 4th loop into the piece. Now this 4th loop and the 1st loop are not connected, so you want to pick up one last 11-0, and you want to be careful where you go, but you want to go into that first original middle bead of the 1st loop, which is right there. And I hope you guys can see that. Yeah. There it is. It's connected together. And this is actually going to be the back of your unit. Now I'm going to go ahead and reinforce this at least once. So I'm just going through the 11-0 beads that I just connected together a second time. And essentially it should be 8 11-0 beads. So I went through, I think, about 3 or 4. I'm going to turn around and go through another 3 or 4. And here, I'm going to exit out of this first one here. That's what you should get. Now I'm going to go up into, let's make sure you guys can see that. So I'm going up into these beads that are part of the loop, those original loops. So there's that middle bead, and these are the 2 that are on the side. And then into the fire polish. You just want to go into the fire polish to begin with. And what we're going to actually have to do is work our way down to this bead here in the center. So actually, you don't have to necessarily go into just the fire polish. So I'll go into the fire polish and the next 2 11-0 beads. Like so. And then 1 more bead over, just 1. See this middle bead? That's part of this little unit that we made in the beginning. So that's where we are. Now I'm going to go down into this bead here, and then the 1 bead below that. Move my hand out of the way so you guys can see. Okay, so here's the bead I'm exiting out of. What I'm going to do is now pick up an 11-0, a bicone, and an 11-0. So you're going to look for the bead. Here's the one with the thread. You want to go to the one that's directly opposite, sort of its counterpart on the other side, and you want to go through that one. So that's what you'll get. And so basically what happens is the bicone will sit in the center. Now you're exiting this bead. So you're going to go back through the 11-0, the bicone, the 11-0. And we're going to go back through this first 11-0. And this should kind of makes a whole loop between the 2 11-0s and sort of our centerpiece here. This should sit very firmly on top and creates a nice little sort of stacked unit here. Okay, now we work our way back up. So you kind of want to go back up the same way we came. We're going to go into this next 11-0 and we'll end up in this middle 11-0. Go through the next 2 11-0s that are by this fire polish. So make sure I'm not blocking you guys with my big thumb. 2 11-0s and fire polish, and then the 11-0 next to that fire polish on the other side. So now you're in position to add the bicones as the final step. So we're going to put 11-0, bicone 11-0. We skip 3 11-0s and we only pick up the 11-0 fire polish and 11-0. So you pick up those 3 beads, and that'll get you in position to add the next bicone. So again, you pick up 11-0 bicone, 11-0, and you skip the 3, and you pick up 11-0 fire polish, 11-0. Just like that. Repeat. So those are my 3 beads. I'm going to skip these 3. I'm going to pick up an 11-0. Or I'm not really picking them up. Obviously, I'm going through them. So hopefully that's clear. Picking up the 11-0, fire polish, 11-0. And last time, 11-0, bicone, 11-0. And I'm going to skip these 3. I'm going to go through my 11-0, fire polish, 11-0. And you end up with your diamond. Look at that. So that's the first unit. And because it's the first unit, I'm going to go ahead and make the loop for the clasp. And I had my earrings when I made them. I had my bicone oriented in what I call the vertical position. So I'm going to make the bracelet and all the units in that same position. You can of course do it in this position too. It's kind of your preference. This is my preference. And so what I'm going to do is go up into this 11-0 and the bicone. I'm going to pick up 9 11-0 beads. I got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I'm going to go back around the 11-0. And that's going to be the loop. So I'm going to put a jump ring through that and add my clasp once I'm finished with the entire bracelet. So I'm just going to reinforce this a couple times. And I'm going to tie off basically. So make sure you definitely want to reinforce this a few times, because typically the clasp is where there's more wear and tear on the bracelet. Okay, now go ahead and tie off. So to tie off, I came out of this 11-0. I'm going to come out of one more. I'm going to make a half-hitch knot. Make sure you don't pick up anything else in between. And tighten your thread. Go through the 11-0, or sorry, the fire polish, and that should pull the knot inside and keeps everything nice and firm. Now I'm going to go through and do one more. I'm going to go through all these 11-0 seed beads. So I went through 5 of them. And make another knot. So basically you're just making a knot around the thread that's between the 2 beads. So there's the loop. Pull a needle through and go through. I have lotion on my hands and it's making it hard for me to pull the needle. And the beads are a little bit tighter now. But I think that's going to be sufficient. You can always do a 3rd knot. I think we've gone around it enough and my thread's fairly short. So I'm going to stop there and trim my thread. And that's what you should have. So you're going to need to make a few more units depending on the length of the bracelet that you want. And I'll show you how to connect. So go ahead and make the first one and I'll show you how to connect the second one together. Hey fellow beaders, so I made part of my second unit. It's not complete yet. I'm at the point where I'm going to add the center bicone. So I'm going to pick up an 11-0 bicone. That's what I'm doing over there. And I'm picking up another 11-0. So I have my 3 beads. I'm exiting out of the 11-0 here. And so I'm just going to turn it. So I'm exiting, the thread's coming out and going in that direction. So I'm just going to go over here and pick up this opposite bead and go in the opposite direction. This pushes the bead to the center. I go back through these 3 beads, like so. And I'm going to pull the thread, make sure this is nice and tight. I want it sitting snug, and I'm going to go through that original bead back through so that I've made a loop, essentially. And once you pull it tight, this should be sitting and it should be nice and firm. You can always, reinforce a second time. I really don't think it's necessary. So now we're in position to add the bicones. So here's this bead that you're exiting, your thread's exiting. I'm going to go ahead and go down this next bead, and let's just do that. And then I'm going to go through these 3 11-0 beads. So that follows the thread path that I took originally. I'm going to go through the fire polish and just the next 11-0 bead. Like so. I'm going to pick up an 11-0, a bicone, 11-0, and I'm going to go through, I'm going to skip these 3 and then go through this 11-0 that's right next to the fire polish, and I'm going to come out of the 11-0 on the other side of the fire polish. Like so. There we go. I'm going to repeat, pick up the bicone, or 11-0 bicone, and 11-0. Skip the next 3 11-0s, go through the 11-0 fire polish, 11-0. So I got 2 of the 3. Now for the third one, this is where I connect the two units together. So the reason I chose to do it on this side is because this orients my bicones. They're both in the same orientation. So this time you just pick up an 11-0, go through the bicone on the first unit, and to make sure your thread doesn't loop the way I just did that, and pick up another 11-0, and you're going to go through this 11-0, come out of the fire polish and the 11-0 here. Just like this, and that has us partially connected. We still have one more step. We're going to finish this one here. So pick up an 11-0, bicone 11-0, skip the 3 11-0s, go through the fire polish, or the 11-0 fire polish, 11-0, and then go up into this next 11-0 here, the bicone and the 11-0. And what we're going to do is just reinforce these pieces that we just added. And I'm just going to flip it so we're looking at the back side of the 2 units now. Like so. And all we're doing is just going through the beads. So we're not adding any beads right now. And I'm just going to go through these 11-0s, the fire polish, the 2 11-0s, and I think I can get through that bicone. Take your time with this, no rush. Go through only as many beads as you can. So now 2 11-0s, the fire polish is all I'm going to go through. So now I am going to go through these 3 11-0 beads. Make sure you guys can see that. And I'm just going to turn this over real quick. Now I'm going to go through this 11-0 here. I'm going to pick up another 11-0. I'm going to go through this 11-0 here on the other unit. And then go down these 2 11-0s over here. See my needle? There it is. And go through the next 2. Well, let's go through the 1. So I'm coming out of this middle one here. I want to go through this next one, and I'm going to go through this 11-0 that's connected to the bicone. And now we need to add the 11-0 and connect it. Go through this 11-0 here and these 2 11-0s down here. So pull everything tight, make sure there's no slack in the thread, and that's what your unit should look like. So I'm going to go ahead and reinforce that. So part of the reason I designed it this way is that we're not relying there on the bicone as the main connector, and then it's actually the seed bead. You know, bicones have a tendency to cut the thread, so I was trying to avoid that. So there's you are connected with the bicones, but really the pressure isn't going to be on the bicones. And even if the thread is cut over there, it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect the connections. But so I'm just reinforcing and making sure there's no slack in any of the thread. And you can do this as many times as you want until you feel like this is nice and firm. I've done it 3 times, so I'm going to go ahead and tie off. 3 or 4 is fine. And I'm making the 1/2 inch knots here in around the fire polish. So I'm going to go through, we're going between the 2 beads here, and then through the fire polish, and through the 11-0s that are between each of these fire polish. So I'm going to not worry about the bicone unit here. We've already reinforced that, so that should be okay. That's my second knot. I'm just going to work my thread away. And so these are going to be a little bit tight because I've gone through them a few times. And also, I think as I said earlier, I have lotion on my hands. So I put lotion on my hands because my hands, it's winter and my hands are very, very dry. And of course, so they don't look completely ashy and chapped on camera. But of course it makes beading a little bit harder. Okay, so I made a 3rd knot in this case because I had enough thread to do so. I'm just working my way out away from the knot and there. So To continue with the bracelet, what you're going to do is essentially make the unit as I've shown you how to make the first one, but you connect that one unit with the next, with the original. Okay, let me say that again. That didn't come out right. So when you make your new unit, you're gonna be connecting to the bicone. So that's the only step that's going to be different in this. The rest of the unit is made exactly the same way as I've shown you how to make the first one. And you're not going to have this big loop. But that's it. So go ahead and continue, and we'll compare finished products. Hey fellow beaders, so here's my completed bracelet. I ended up having to make 7 units, and this will basically depend on how many or the length that you need for your wrist. So I generally need about 6.5 to 7 inch bracelet, and so that's why I needed the 7 units. So I opened up a jump ring, I added on my clasp. I'm just gonna loop it through that loop that we first made, and then close up the jump ring. And there it is. Move my tools out of the way. Hope you guys like this tutorial. I really like the way the bracelet came out. I think the Labrador colors with the silver seed beads came out really nicely. If you guys make this bracelet, I'll help you. Please post on my Facebook page. I always love seeing the colors that you guys end up using. Everybody always comes up with such creative use of color. So I'm always excited to see what you guys come up with. Anyway, I will see you in the next tutorial. Enjoy, guys. Bye.